Hi, guys. Welcome back to On the Town with Tanya, and I'm your host. So today's guest went from playing professional cricket to becoming one of London's best kept fashion and art secrets. Once you hear his story, you'll wonder how he never kept it a secret at all. Born in St. Lucia and raised right here in London, our guest today is an artist, a designer, and a former professional cricket cricketer. I can never say it right. Cricketer who traded the pitch for pattern making at Central St. Martin's. He started out curating a small stall at Spitalfields Market, and over a decade later, he's dressed A-listers, exhibited paintings and clothing from Milan to Tokyo, and built a name for himself as a pioneer of sustainable fashion, turning military surplus textiles into wearable art. Today, he runs his own standalone boutique on Westbourne Grove, 189 to be specific, where he invites people to literally step into his studio and see his vision up close. I'd like for you to please help me welcome Kervin Marc. Hey, there you go. Let me bring him up. Let me bring him up. I get my claps. Hey, welcome. Welcome to
Yeah,
the show.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Me
so much.
too.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having me. Yeah,
We appreciate you.
yeah,
Thank you for being our guest.
yeah. My pleasure.
Yeah. Let's see. Fashion and art and music. That's always been one, my three loves. I'll say, and it's kind of what I think keeps people grounded and really happy. Like even in a world that feels chaotic most days, there's something about looking at a piece of art or wearing something meaningful that someone actually designed and took, with intention, that just shifts like your whole energy. So I hope that today our viewers walk away knowing you and the value of art and creating, how it can help all of us in a way. So, let's get into it.
Yeah. Well, as I say again, thanks for having me on. And it's a pleasure to be here myself. And I suppose to talk a bit about what I do, Tanya.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it is it's a privilege to be able to move people in certain ways with your art. Yeah. It's not. It's like the blues music. Sometimes it's not the prettiest story,
Hmm.
but it sometimes people can connect with these stories. But it's all about how you can tell things in a beautiful way, which are sometimes ugly. Yeah,
Mm.
or tell things which are beautiful in a beautiful way.
Mhm.
Mm, yeah.
Mm. How did you first come into fashion and art?
It's fashion and art. I mean, art has always been like the main thing. I've drawn ever since I was a kid. I
Oh.
could draw and create stuff. From my background as a kid growing up on a farm in the Caribbean, in St. Lucia to be specific. I had like family members who were very creative, so it's quite inspiring. So they had a duality because they were farmers and particularly the women, they were like very creative. My grandmother was a seamstress, and my aunties, they were all seamstresses, and I had one uncle actually. I still have one uncle who's Raphael, who's um, very creative and helped me with my drawing and so on.
Hmm.
So from the time I was very small, I was always creating things and drawing and painting and just having fun really. So yeah, it started very young. Yeah.
What inspiration, aunties and everybody. You're already in the atmosphere. So you originally wanted to be an artist.
When I was younger, I mean, growing up on a farm initially in the Caribbean in St. Lucia, I didn't know the notion of being an artist. I just everybody did something, creative,
Yes.
um, and I suppose, yeah, I just thought, okay, maybe using my hands or something like that. That's what I thought. I didn't understand the concept of art. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So it's only when I came to England, at the age of about 9, 10, that I, stuff that came quite naturally to me. My art teachers at school, they were like, "Oh wow, you have something." So then I started understanding the concept of art. I don't want to make St. Lucia look bad, because St. Lucia's got some great artists, and quite famous for writers and artists and so on. So I was just a boy from the village, so who didn't really know that concept. And it's when I got to England that I understood the concept of the artist.
Wow. So here you got well, probably everything clicked together, their creativity with seeing, especially London back then. I mean,
Yeah. It's a bit of an overload of information, visually. When you get to London, I'm familiar with the colors, the landscape, the people. Then you come to London, and it's like, wow, it's just like people from everywhere.
Yeah.
Different fashions, all the different buildings, all the different, the variety. So I've never seen anything as a 9-year-old coming here. Cars, everything. So again, of course, we had those things in St. Lucia, but it was a bit of an overload. And
what was that like?
Maybe just the processing, to help me process all of that. What was really going on all around me, all these changes. So that's probably the light bulb moment. Let's say 9, 10 years old, that I realized, actually, I need to document this, draw this, try and work it out, figure it out. So that's probably when, maybe say about 10 years old.
Wow.
That perhaps being an artist is the thing that I want to be.
Wow. Well, growing up in those two worlds, right? How was St. Lucia? I mean, I can imagine, but tell the audience, I guess, how was St. Lucia compared to when you get to this overstimulated, especially London in what would that be, the 60s? Or the 50s?
No. I'm not.
You're not that old.
I'm not that old. No. I got
just
here
told
in the
myself.
80s. I got there in the 80s.
80s, okay.
So,
it's pretty banging. I used to hang out in London 80s. That was pretty banging.
Yeah. So, So in London, you get here as a 9-year-old, and you're just happy to see your family and friends. Your new family and friends who I'd never met before. It's the first time I traveled, but you're going from aqua blue seas and white sands, sandy beaches, and coconut trees and mango trees, and just greenery and the light, and the sunshine and the heat. And then you get here to the UK, to grey, foggy, London. Rainy. Yeah.
Even the clothing, right? Because I would think
right. People wearing the colors, dark colors,
Yeah.
and then just look like, well, in retrospect now, as an older guy, it looks like a scene from 1984, the movie or something. Obviously, I came here in 1984.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So it was very, very different to where I'd come from, and it had a bit of it affected you a bit. It's exciting to come up, but these initial colors that I'm telling you about, you don't jump for joy with these colors. Yeah,
right.
It's the first proper sort of initial sort of sadness that you feel, because
right.
Wow. You're indoors. It's very outdoors in the Caribbean, and the heat, and it's cold, and it was cold and rainy. All the stereotypes, although we are going through a heat wave now,
I know. Now I'm just like, I'm back home.
Yeah.
But also, I would think as a painter as well, an artist, has your work been shaped by London versus St. Lucia, not versus in a competition way, but just in a figurative way, because you're talking about, like you said, sand and you
Yeah.
know coconuts and palm trees and
Yeah.
trees and
Yeah.
walking in the tall grass and
Yeah.
hand built structures or something,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
pine
Yeah.
structures.
Yeah.
Versus now, and it's like, look at this megadome, and the
Yeah.
shapes are different, the air is different, everything's different. So
Yeah, everything's different, but so I suppose all your senses are a bit more alert to the difference. Even the air smells different. Obviously, you've got traffic. You've got because we moved to West London, and all the cars, and the food tastes different. Everything felt different. The way people moved was different. I mean, in the Caribbean, we move a bit slower, and well, I remember us moving a little bit more relaxed and so on. But here it tends people move faster. Maybe they're moving faster to stay warm. I certainly did, because we came sort of like the sort of end of winter, spring sort of time. Yeah, which was still quite cold and rainy, and so all the colors and all the London, it's a lot to process. So when you're doing that in color as a kid, I'm not fully formulated at that stage, because as you know, you mentioned I played cricket. I was quite sporty as well, and that's I was perhaps a bit more interested in just running around, because growing up on a farm and stuff, you just any opportunity that you got just to just run around, this like I was doing in the Caribbean in St. Lucia. That's what I wanted to do. So yeah, even then it's a mixture of the two. So that was my happy place, a bit of running around, playing sport, and at home indoors, getting my some paper or sketching, and just drawing away, myself and my brother. Yeah.
well, you have a painting that I think meets both worlds, as I would say, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's I kind of felt like, do I have it here? I did have it. I call it Crossroads. This painting right here. Now there's the things on the screen, but people can
Yeah.
see the idea of. Tell me about this painting.
Right.
I love this one.
So growing up in the first 9 years of my life on a farm, and then I can tell you so much about like farms and roads being built on the farm to go to. I can tell you the smell of the tarmac, which has been laid, and all the layers. I'd watched this as a kid, right? Like a cake, all of that was on the road. And then to get to like the remote sort of regions that I lived in, and so on. And then, the grass, how the sun would, hit the grass, and then the lights, and the distance of the hills, because it's quite a hilly place, St. Lucia. So I suppose I'm harping back. That painting was like very recent, last week actually, and it's a small little painting, and I like to reflect on that, and I mean, my style of clothing, how I design clothing, I like to piece things together. I remember the farmers, they would have, they wouldn't wear their Sunday best to go out and cut bananas or something. They'd wear rags, because the banana sap would fall and stain the garments and so on. So they're doing hard manual work, yeah. So they're not in their Sunday best, yeah. They're in some tough clothing, and yeah. So I've got the vision of these people, with love. It's probably something. I don't necessarily place a recognizable face in that painting, but because over the years, I've got like these visions, and as you get older, then you sort of idealize those images of you on the farm, and those scenes, and walking past people. People would greet each other, but I suppose it's a universal rural scene, which. You being American, I mean, I can identify with say, I don't know, maybe the South or on farm. There's this,
Yes.
maybe there's this, you guys call it sharecropping, I suppose, but maybe there's a slight sharecropping type feel to it.
Can't be that much different.
Yeah, no, I've always, as in my later life, I've realized the massive similarities for just rural people, but rural people from, you know, all over the world, you know, whatever, you know, whether it be China, Africa, Caribbean, you know, Asia, wherever, we have very similar experiences. But when you come from an African diaspora, perhaps there's it's a bit more poignant, you know, there's probably a bit more, perhaps there's a bit more meaning, and maybe a bit more specific feeling, a little bit more blue. I use a bit of blue in that painting. Yeah, so perhaps a bit more blue.
Yeah, that was beautiful. The colors are just really tells a lot, and it looks like I couldn't tell if the sun was going down or coming up, but either way, it's very symbolic, all of it.
Yeah, sun up and sun down. Yeah, it's like that twilight sort of period, isn't it? Yeah, that always interested me. Those two periods of time. Yeah, there's a magic in both those times.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, in the Caribbean days, they start. You know, it starts very early and then goes down early, maybe like 6, 7 o'clock, 7. Yeah, that sort of time, 7, 8. But it's magic.
It definitely is. Wow.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah, your work shows a lot of both worlds. Did being raised here in London shape your eye for the style that you have, or was it more what you carried from St. Lucia?
Yeah, you know, like St. Lucia was, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's impacted me. But we used to sit around. I come from an era actually where, and a region where I remember not having a television. So that's not in a bad way. That was like that's some of the happiest times of my life. Yeah, right. So we'd sit around, tell stories, and listen to stories, and their traditional stories that go around. Like Nancy the Spider and Corbe Lapin. Yeah, if any St. Lucians know this, they know what this means. Stories about a rabbit, a very naughty rabbit. Yeah. But then you realize as you get older, these are African stories. And then there's spiritualism and mysticism and the supernatural. These are things, as a kid, you're seeing, when you're sat around, together under the stars and telling stories, and as kids, and some of the older kids are telling the stories, or your family members are telling the stories. They're quite powerful. Yeah. Any movement, any sound, any crackling of a twig or anything, like, what is that? And yes, that's way better than television, man. Yeah.
Way better. You build your creativity.
Yeah, your heart is going and stuff.
You're gonna find it for sure.
Yeah. So this kind of magical time of storytelling and linking, like, past histories and so on, stories which are handed down. Initially you don't know where those stories are coming from. So this kind of now it's almost like griot type stories. They're like burnt into the back of your mind, and then I suppose you place that when you combine with dreams. You tell people about your dreams, and then somebody will try and what usually your family, or like say my grandmother or something like this, would try and work out what does it mean. So you're in early tradition, early on you learn about all these things, all these visions and so forth. So that's when I'm visiting, when I'm making artwork, I'm trying to combine all those things,
those elements.
Yeah.
Do you ever like yearn for the town that you grew up in, or do you ever wonder, like, I wonder what life would have been like this?
Yeah, I mean, I do yearn. It's quite idyllic, and it's very, very peaceful. But I'm generally, I generally am quite balanced and peaceful. At times, I do, obviously, like all of us, we've got like things that that eat at us, but I'm always trying to get a level of equilibrium. So I do miss that little, Patience, wonderful place I come from, which is amazing. But then, the challenges of the new London and Shepherd's Bush and West London, um, and the family, and the family I was sort of I met in England, including my mom and so forth. Yeah, this compensated after a while for the ones I left behind, but I never forget, and I never, you hang on to it more. I particularly did because I had strong memories of the island, so it's always with me, and
Yes.
I always, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I go back now, and there are people now who are missing, who've passed on,
Okay.
now, so it doesn't feel quite the same, but there's plenty of memories there, which I carry with me. I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, and it will always inspire me. Um,
Okay.
and it gives context to everywhere I go. Yeah, really.
Mhm.
It's like it's like a centering compass of a place.
Exactly. It
Mhm.
shows up, I think, in your work too, as well. I mean, I wouldn't guess right away, but if I know now, know what I know now, and
Mhm.
look at everything, and I said, yeah, he carries it
Mhm.
proudly. And so,
Yeah.
some of the colors that you use, even in your paintings and some of your clothes.
Mhm.
So I don't have the greatest pictures, guys, to show you of all the stuff, but I have just a couple of things. So here's, as far as some fashion, but there's
Um,
there's kimonos, there's
yeah.
leather coats, there's tons of stuff. That's all that I could grab. Wait, where
Yeah.
that's not it. Wrong one.
Yeah.
But there's tons of stuff to show you. And leather, you are a master with leather.
Uh,
I mean, just masterful.
No, no, thank you. Um, I think with the clothing side
Mhm.
side of things, I've always had a sort of waste not, want not. I come from that tradition, you get served food and you don't waste any of it, So, and all, yeah, so that's it. We had livestock on the land as well,
Mhm.
so you know where leather comes from and so forth. Um, the approach of not wasting materials, I suppose I learned a bit more about that. There is when I got to England, especially that sort of DIY sort of punk way of making things.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, Although I did observe my grandmother and my aunts and so on sewing and stuff. I'm
Mm.
very young, so technically I'm just sort of, when I get to England, I'm almost self-taught. I have got a grounding with the family, but um, I went to art college over here, and I studied. Um, I didn't study fashion. I actually studied industrial product design. So,
Yes.
which is um,
Um,
you know it helps you design, and you learn the design process, and you create three-dimensional things. But I really got into this kind of not wasting materials. Getting a military jacket, and
yes.
you
I had a
know
sustainability question. I had questions for you on that.
yeah, I suppose, yeah. Now they call it sustainability.
Yeah.
I was just sustaining my fun and my interest in clothing. I mean, and
That's amazing.
I didn't have very much money, so I would always just make do with what, and make stuff really interesting, and always wear just one-off type pieces. Mixing
Right.
materials and stuff.
Right.
Very
Well,
very, in a way, organic process of just putting one thing together with another thing, and then what sometimes looks like a bit of a mistake for
mm,
others, became my process, really. Yeah.
yes. Yes. They were
Yeah.
clever at that. Your t-shirts are
Mm.
amazing. A lot of, I mean, everything's amazing, but the way you piece things together and mix fabrics is also another thing that you do very
Mm.
well with the fastenings. And I mean, it's amazing. I've never seen no one think like that and pull it off to that degree, where it's so beautiful and it's actually couture looking with a pinch of punk, with a pinch of whatever else you need in it to be,
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm glad that's resonated
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
you. I mean, I like my work to have a rawness, but an elegance as well. So
Yes.
and then when you really look, I want it sounds like a contradiction, but I also want a level of refinement as well.
It
Because
definitely has that. I mean,
yes.
yeah.
So I'm rebellious in a way in what
Yes.
what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
I want to demonstrate a bit of craft as well. Yeah.
Yes. You can
So
see that
mm,
clearly just in this
yeah.
alone.
So
I wish I could have.
and again, as I said, I didn't study fashion, so so every day I'm just building up my fashion vocabulary, and that's it's very exciting. I've been doing that for over 25 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, so every day I get stronger. Well, to me, I think I get stronger, and it's a massive adventure, and that alongside my art as well.
Yes. Yes.
Um, it just means that I consider it to be fun. I mean, obviously it's not always hunky dory and all that because it can be a challenge at times. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would lie to you if I would just not said that to you. But I just love the challenge. I just love it. Yeah,
Yes.
both
And
disciplines, art and fashion.
what was it that actually pulled you away from cricket into design?
Well, cricket, yeah,
Didn't
that's
you
my
did
other
you play pro? Like
passion.
for a while, or play,
I,
at a good
I
level?
played, yeah, I played professionally. I had a contract. I played for Middlesex County Cricket Club.
Hmm.
I had a 2-year contract there when I was 18, between 18 and 20. And then I
Okay.
had a year before that on sort of an academy, which is the MCC Young Cricketers. So
Hmm.
I started quite young playing, and then my contract wasn't renewed after 20. I'd already done a foundation year at art college, so when I'm telling this story, it sounds all a bit confusing, but I did actually, I did my A levels at school. Then I
Hmm.
did a foundation year at Central St Martin's Art College, and
Okay.
then but I got signed,
Right.
pretty much towards the end of my foundation year.
Mm.
Um, then I had two seasons playing cricket full time,
Hmm.
and then my contract wasn't renewed after um, the 2 years,
Hmm.
and then I had already been offered a few courses at Central St Martin's,
Okay.
which I had deferred for a couple of years, and
Okay.
then I had a few choices to make. They remembered me. They held my place. And then I started back there and doing product design and did my degree there for I spent a further 3 years there.
Wow.
But whilst I was studying, I was still playing cricket. I
Right.
was playing. I played back then for what was British universities, and then I also played minor counties. So I became I was still trying and playing very good level.
Hmm.
I played for Berkshire, and whilst I was studying. So you're talking between 95 and 2000, well, between 95 and 2005, say. I
Hmm.
had about 10 years of going around playing in England, playing in New Zealand, playing in Australia, touring South Africa. Um, after the whole apartheid thing, I'm still not old enough to have been
Right.
there during the apartheid
Right.
time. Um,
Pretty.
yeah, so yeah, so yeah, it's I kept on. There was a period of time where both those things then merged. My cricket, which I was
Right.
trying to get back into being a full-time professional, but in a way, I was like a part-time, professional,
Mm.
um, and I call it, like being a journeyman. Sports people will know what that means. Yeah, or people in general. Sorry. Um, and I was a bit of a journeyman for what about 10 years, but the journey was a lot of fun. It took me all around the world. Yeah,
Of course,
you
of
know.
course.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
What we were studying product and industrial design at
yeah.
St. Martin's. What did that experience teach you that art school by itself wouldn't have taught you?
Well, so yeah, so it's industrial product design. So at art college, you learn the design process, and the difference between, for me, the difference between art and design, right, is in art, it's from my head. I don't need to please anybody. In design, you're working with a brief, you're working with the human body, so there are rules, things have to
Yes,
fit
fabric.
people.
Yeah.
You know, fabric, there's health and safety stuff. Yeah, so you learn the design process, very important, and the disciplines of that. And at Central St. Martin's at the time, you learn how to. It's very strong at conceptual thinking. So then, that there is what I learned a lot about strong concepts and conceptual thinking. Very important, and also to realize those concepts. Very important to. It's great to have concepts very strong, but it's good to realize them in the physical form. Yeah.
Yes, and you execute that well, and that's what you say. I think that some of your well, we'll say training
Mhm.
in the university comes through along with your own how do you call it, your own sense and your own style. And together it creates something so nice. Like even when I look at the jacket or some of your jackets, the detailing that you put into it is so, I can't explain it. It's so clean,
Mhm.
clean. That's what
Mhm.
gives it the couture look to it.
Mhm.
And that to me means someone has to understand not only the fabric and the how it lays and this and that, but also design and structure and how that works as well. So
Yeah.
that's why I love your collection.
Yeah. No. No. The combination between like conceptual thinking and actual a physical product, or well, I call it a product because I do bring that product design element to the work, because things need to. For me, I'm very fascinated with things having sort of multiple functions and so on. So you'll see that in some of the work, but the couture element, you know, is because of the concept and pushing the boundary a bit. I'm always trying to do that myself, and it's in actual fact, a lot of people don't agree with this, but I think fashion can also be art, because it's like
Absolutely.
it's sculpture. It's like a sculpture at times. And I actually treated initially when I left, when I finished my product design degree, then I had a t-shirt label where I would just make artwork on t-shirts, and I
Mhm.
wouldn't use. In my rules were I try not to use words, right? Just use imagery
Mhm.
and with meaning. So yeah, so that's how I started. Really, I used fashion as an art medium, a way to express my art, and in a lot of ways, I still do that now. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a level of freedom that I exercise, or I aim for anyway,
Mhm.
um, in my expression, and I'm very concerned with like an individual approach, so that's my aim, and for individuals really.
Right. Wow. You I forgot that you what's it called? You ran your stall at let me tell me if I say it correct.
Yes,
Spitalfields? Is
yeah,
that right?
Spitalfields, yeah,
Spitalfields
Spitalfields, yeah,
for
yeah,
almost 2 decades. Wow. Um,
yes, 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 I
what did
did, yeah.
what did that like teach you as an artist,
Oh wow, it's like
owner?
it's like being an actor, a theater actor, and going out on the boards every night, every day, every night.
Yes.
So I got to meet people. I got to meet real people. Before that, before being there, I actually I had an agent in Milan, and I was wholesaling. And I would sell to like fancy stores, stores like Harrods and so on and so forth, and little boutiques all over the world. Actually, in New York, actually, all back in the day on the Lower East Side in New York,
Okay.
in Los Angeles and stuff, and also obviously in London, in Tokyo. This is before just hustling, going to Paris, and showing my collection, not on runways, but we'd have like a showroom or something like that. So I'd show it in Milan, and I'd show it in Paris. But then going to, that system, if you don't understand it well enough, you can end up, if you're doing it for the first season, second season, it takes a while to get used to that. And you make money, then you lose some money, you make some money, you lose some money. It's a precarious way of life. But the market, I just did it initially just as just to clear some stock I had from showing in showroom in Paris and in Milan. And it was an immediacy of like getting paid immediately, as opposed to forward ordering and waiting 6 months to get paid and stuff.
Right.
So then you started. It's pretty brutal, If they don't like it, well, I suppose the same thing in all fashion. If they don't like it, they don't buy it. Yeah. So so I had to work it out, and things I thought I was getting right, the audience in front of me would teach me that no, that's not right, and it's the greatest lesson. And it also taught me I could see how I could be safe, but then like sometimes being safe, there's a lot of competition. Being so safe, and I didn't really like it, so I would take some risks, and I would be able to assess those risks immediately. By the feedback and so on. So it's very immediate. And if you do that, so then I developed the skill of expressing myself, pushing myself, knowing what winning styles in my in sort of my aesthetic and so forth. And the market is great. Also, juggling my finance. If I sell this amount of stuff, then I can buy this material, then I can make this thing. It's the greatest lesson. But also, in a way, you end up, when you're in a market store, you kind of like, and having come back from showing in the Parises and in the Milans and so on and so forth, you almost to that world. It felt like, oh, now this guy's a bit like lower in lower standings.
Really?
It's a great position to be in. If people almost underestimating you and also thinking that you don't know that much, right? But so you almost sneak up on people with your knowledge and your skill. So
yes,
it was brilliant. And also I learned never to judge people, because you just never know who anybody is. And that was the biggest lesson I learned actually in the market.
That's the best lesson. That is the best lesson I can say. Selling clothes. I used to do. They had sort of like, I guess you want to call it. I call it a market down by Fifth Street in Manhattan. Back in they still have it. Someone says, but I don't. It's not like it used to be. In the 80s, it was much more fun. But they had it was very small. It's not like Portobello Market or nothing like that. But every other people, vendors would be out there and sell their stuff. Down by NYU, down by what is it, Broadway and something, Fifth, I want to say Fifth, somewhere down there. But that's the one thing I can say you can learn when you're selling directly to people. You learn about people, and boy, if you learn right, it can prepare you for the next step, which is the next question. When did you know you were ready to go from the market stall to your own boutique?
Yeah, well, I when I was in the market in say about 2013, I actually tried out having a boutique. I shared that with another trader, and I did that for just under a year. So I realized, okay, I can do this. But then the advantages of actually being on the market, and especially in East London, in Spitalfields, right, where it's so vibrant, a bit competitive, and people are coming there to seek fashion and to seek trend. And it was just I love the challenge of going. So I went back to the store for, well, it seemed like for further seven years, right, until COVID. And I was always thinking about going into a shop, but I was approached by this guy, lovely guy Patrick, who had a terrariums business called Forstore. He still has that business. And then he convinced me to come into a shop. I wasn't quite I was actually quite comfortable in a way on a market stall
Mhm.
because I was so used to the life.
Right.
And I've got so much respect for it. So I wasn't necessarily looking to move, but it's almost COVID forced me. Became a bit quiet at the market around the COVID time,
Yeah.
just after COVID.
Yeah.
So I just had to try something a bit different,
Mhm.
and so I moved, because of COVID actually, to the shop. Uh,
Really?
yeah, and I was, initially sharing with Patrick, and after that, yeah, Patrick went on to do something else, and then I carried on. Yeah.
Why'd you pick Westbourne Grove specifically? Like, what does that area mean to you?
Well, that area I know it very well. I grew up the proximity. I grew up in Shepherd's Bush, which is like what, 1 mile. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 1 mile west
Right.
from Notting Hill and
Yeah.
Narrow Grove. So I know it. I know it very well. I know the demographic there very well. To be fair, when I was on the stall, I would sell. When I was on the market stall, I would sell to everybody. But I'd particularly be going into, if I was doing special orders, because that's the other thing I do. I do made to measure and special orders. I
Mhm.
would go. I would find myself going to West London, to hotels or boutique hotels or apartments and so on,
Mhm.
just delivering garments which I'd made for people
Mhm.
who's there and in Mayfair. So I knew West London well, and my customers there a lot
Mm.
of the time. But as I say, it's a particular type of customer because it's an individual bourgeois customer in a way, but
Right.
also because it's got so many creative people there as well. I know it because I knew it used to be like very, very creative. It's a bit more expensive, so creative, up and coming creative people find it hard to live in that area now.
Mhm.
But in a way, it used to be how East London
Mm.
became.
Wow.
So I knew it had the mix of creative people
Mhm.
and people that understood what I did. So it was a good fit
It
to
was.
yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Because also, yeah, your clothes are what I would call higher fashion. Even if you might think when you first see leather or something, you may not think that if you're not in fashion. But the first thing I notice is the style and the cleaning. What do you call it? The clean lines. A lot of stuff. Your craftsmanship is amazing. So Westbourne Grove is kind of the perfect spot to be.
Yeah,
So
it's a great spot to be. I do miss the grimy, like edgy East London because although I'm in Westbourne Grove and there's a level of polish to what I do, yeah,
yeah.
there is a grittiness also to what I do, and that is not as much in the cutting edge in that gritty underground way is not necessarily doesn't necessarily exist in Notting Hill, and I still have to keep it real, and I've got friends and so on, and I'm in the East or wherever it is that inspires me, which is a bit more raw, yeah, because I don't know if I'll ever become like super like hyper polished, I like that that
Mm.
gritty
Edge to it.
raw edge. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
that's in a way that's what I think I'm bringing back to Westbourne Grove, not
absolutely,
um,
absolutely.
so yeah, I'm constantly it's like a and the space is like my studio as well, so I'm experimenting a lot there. It's an unusual setup with
Yes.
my art and my fashion, and I use the space to create things in, and it's I'm really having a go, right there in West London, and yeah, and I've got the space to do that. I've got 2 floors, yeah, so yeah, it's unusual. It's like I see myself as a bit of a artist shopkeeper.
Yeah,
Um,
yes. When you walk into, you feel like you're in a gallery, and then you're going to shop.
I do have some wonderful people who help me in the store as well. So
Yes,
I do have done over the years as well.
yes.
So as much as I am a one man band, I mean I've got a wonderfully supportive family and some amazing people who help me as well, who have to, you know, it's not easy sometimes being around somebody who's so single-minded about their vision. Yeah, so I appreciate people who come with that, and hopefully I share some joy, and I occasionally listen to people. But I'm pretty hard-headed. Well, I'm pretty focused on the way I want to do things and how I see the world. So it's made me who I am today.
That's what exactly. I want you to tell me about sustainability. So obviously, that's very massive in what you do.
Mhm.
How did upcycling military surplus become your signature thing?
Yeah, well, growing up in West London and going to art college, St Martin's, in the 90s, I didn't have much money, and it's very pragmatic. I want to look cool, I want to be warm and stuff, and military clothing, is very, especially from army surplus stores and so on. It's very functional stuff, really strong, and looks cool. Yeah, so it's that, and also I couldn't afford to buy like big skins of leather and so on. So I'd buy pieces and offcuts and so on, and then I'd incorporate that in garments I would make.
Mhm.
So to be honest with you, I never really thought of it as sustainable. I mean, I only started hearing that word many years down the line. Yeah.
Right, right.
But it's just a way of life for me, and from my upbringing of not wasting, and also just I suppose there's a sort of Caribbean story, or maybe a Black story, of like making something out of almost nothing, right?
Mm.
What like the worst cuts, turning it into soul food. Yeah, it's that philosophy, really. Yeah, and I really just like pride myself on just like, okay, what's the challenge here? Okay, I've got this amount of material, I've got that. Okay, well, if I piece that together, what's going to happen? And let's create something. I'll maybe sketch it out in my mind, or I'll just drape it, or yeah. And I was doing that with military uniforms,
Yes.
and then I'd be wearing it. It's literally initially selfishly for me, yeah. And then people are like, oh, where'd you get that from? Oh,
Right.
me. And then they'd want, so then I'd make for them, and never making two things exactly the same.
Right.
And then along the way, getting better and better at doing it, and also getting better at working with leather.
Mm.
Because I developed a fascination with leather when I was in the showroom in Italy.
Yes.
So Italians obviously know, and I mainly use Italian
Love
leather.
it.
Actually,
Yes.
I haven't been known to use leathers from the African continent, especially Ghana.
Yeah.
And but yeah. So that's my fascination, just making things. And I know you said sustain. What got me to this sustainable. So then sustainable fashion. Well, that then became. I understood that to be sustainable fashion, but it's literally survival and self-expression, really. And now that fits into sustainable. I like using natural materials as well. So
Yes. Yeah.
because especially I over dye things, and it's not easy to over dye synthetic materials. So
Yes.
so natural materials dye well. So yeah,
Yes.
so that's what got me into using like what they now call sustainable design, because that's not waste not, want not, and it's good for the planet. There's no so we're not adding to these kind of big massive mounds of clothing and getting it into the food chain, and
Mm.
just
Mm.
the horrendous situation that we find ourselves in. So I understand that more now, but I literally was just innocently just doing something through necessity.
Right. Wow. And your shapes, I notice as well. I always think of Yoji Yamamoto and some other designers. Because sometimes like the kimonos you have,
Yeah.
the beautiful linen kimonos he has, with like leather piping, all types of things going on. But they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And you have some other things. I notice shape is very forefront in a lot of designs.
Yeah, so I suppose if if Vivian Westwood and Yoshi Yamamoto had a child, then it would be me. Yeah, right.
It would be you
Yeah,
for sure.
mixed in with like a bit of like Marcella and so on and so forth. I mean, it's I mean these are great names I'm mentioning there, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
I've got I traveled to Japan, so
Oh,
and
that's
I've sold in Japan, so I have a lot of respect for their approach to fashion. And one of my first ever lectures, lectures that I attended in 1993 was Issey Miyake himself at Central St. Martin's at the Cochrane Theatre many years ago. So I've got an appreciation for that, but I'm just all due respect to the Japanese. I mean, you just need to go across the African continent and see how fabric is placed on the body, whether it be Senegal, Mali, Ghana, South Africa, Nigeria. Come on, I mean, this is a real art form,
absolutely.
and so on. So there's an otherness. So I don't, just want to just place, great respect for, I do have respect for the Japanese, but I equally I'm very proud of that African tradition that I come from, and also I looked to Asia as well. So this sort of other, almost non-Western way of dressing is also very interesting to me. And I like to explore. It's almost like a lifelong exploration of what's the relationship between all these shapes and cultural shapes and different ways of wearing things, and what does it mean compared to the sort of dystopian, anarchist punk way of, centered in London, London being the epicenter of that. And that you can't really replace. And obviously then traveling to America and all the contemporary, influences, street fashion, what they call street fashion, or fashion that's worn on the street, by people that look like me and you, initially, and then to the world, everybody else does that. It's undeniable the impacts of that on me and the world, and then with music and so much from America. You can't in Europe. Sometimes people try to not give flowers to America, but no, it's massive. So I'm a melting pot of all those things, and so I'm a hybrid of all a lot of those things, and I'm excited as to what comes out and what it looks like. So there are accents. If I make a kimono, I break some rules. Like I place pockets in kimonos and so on and so forth. So I'm not religiously adhering to the rules of Japanese design. I always have my it becomes a Kervin way of doing it.
Yeah. I mean, they're brilliant the way you do them. I would have never imagined that. I have seen something similar, and now that you're right, in Africa? Was it Nigerian Fashion Week or some fashion week that they had for the African diaspora? And I just saw a video, but wow, my God, I was like, wow, can it get any better than this? Are you kidding? So I know what you mean when you say that, and I just couldn't think specific designer, which shame on me. I need to get better at that, because there's a lot that I need to keep my eye on that are brilliant. So
there's a lot of talent coming out of the African continent, and also people of African heritage and African American heritage and Afro-Caribbean heritage, and just it's just when you're in the UK, it's such a melting pot, especially London. There's lots of influences, but the thing is, there's lots of influences, but like with everything, just like creating work, is just finding your own voice. So I'm much more fascinated with my own voice than at this stage than actually repeating somebody else's voice. I'm very big on that.
Yes, we can see that, and you stand out from all the other stores because your work is original. Like almost it's as if each piece was created for you. I don't remember seeing too of anything, but it's almost like this is mine and you can't have it now. This is mine and you're not going to see this again.
Well, I think that's true luxury. When people, when it's an exclusive thing. I mean, it's yeah. So in a way, my work right now is not. It's hard to mass produce. I mean, but you could, I suppose, you could keep repeating certain things. But yeah, it's not. It wouldn't have the same spirit.
No.
Um, you know,
Yeah.
I have attempted to make more pieces in one style sometimes, right? But you're looking at small runs in general. Yeah, of
That's the
everything.
way it should be for me, for high fashion and for anything in that realm. Because what sets you apart if it looks, if somebody can go make it in 5 seconds on a machine and make 500 of them, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and the work
But
that you.
yeah, but you know what? I hear you on that. Yeah, but perhaps with the budget that I had when I was younger, I mean, if it hadn't been for mass-produced things, then I wouldn't have been able to perhaps afford it. So a lot of the time, it's people's entry into fashion, and there is an ecosystem. I don't like to be a snob, really. Well, I'm not saying that you're a snob about it, but it's your taste and preference. But there is. I see the thing of mass production, and I see what it does for those who are budget wise, limited. I really I do see that because there's fashion, there's mass produced fashion, but then there's style. Style to me is separate. Yeah, you can take anything and rock it if you've got style. Yeah, right. And I'm fascinated with style. Yeah. It's just that it means that I just do things on a smaller run, which works for me, and I get more excited about that. Yeah. But it's not to say that I want all mass-produced things to stop. I just yeah. So, but I just we just need to think a lot more about smart ways of reusing things and not overproducing and so forth, right? And using like more ethical production processes and healthier work practices, for the people that are creating these things. And it can be done.
Yes.
I think I'm a cup half full sort of guy, because I think as humans we are, we're very capable of being good and doing the right thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me about what's it called? Tag Free. What's the story behind that project?
Yeah, so tag free. The concept of tag free is literally just freedom for me to define myself, and the whole notion of a tag was, like as blacks, like doing graffiti back in the day, like those guys initially, everybody had a tag, yeah, when and belonging to your graph artist or something like that, graffiti artist, spraying up trains and stuff, right? So I do know, there you go, America right there, yeah, New York right there, without that. And then you've got the artists like Jean-Michel Basquiat with the tag Samo, so forth. So I'm aware of that, and I'm aware these guys have come before me. But you know what, right? Yeah, I almost don't. It's going to sound crazy after everything I've said. I almost don't want to belong to this type of club. I don't want you to tell me that. I don't like people telling me this is what you are and
Right.
whatnot. It's like, no. I'm me. Yeah, I'm not necessarily like Jean-Michel Basquiat. I'm not necessarily like this. I'm tag free. I don't have So every day I'm sort of constantly defining myself. It's almost like true punk, where it's
Right.
constantly evolving, constantly challenging.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so that's what that project was, and yeah, and then obviously it was an anti-label label, yeah, right. So
Anti-label.
I knew, it's like, how do you cure a snake? How do you cure a snake bite? You have to give yourself a shot of this of a little shot of the snake bite. Yeah, all right. So,
That's
so I wrote a whole paper actually as a product designer. I wrote a whole paper at art college on mass production and the ethics of mass production and label and branding. Yeah. So that also is an ongoing project where like branding and then ironically, sometimes to talk about brand, you've got to be a brand. So I sign everything actually. So people are like, well, yeah, but you're an anti-brand. So then I thought, okay. I thought, okay. So my name is Kervin Marc. Yeah. So I thought, just to make it okay, I thought I'd go, okay, Mark. Yeah. So it's like it was tag free. So everything now, like my paintings, I sign okay, Mark, um, just to make it okay.
Wow. Well, I
Yeah.
didn't even notice
So
that.
I sort of, move tag free is just something which I've parked a bit, but okay, Mark is I sign all my paintings like that, and it will always be something I'll do.
Wow. Wow. Okay, Mark. I didn't even notice that. I didn't even look on sometimes I look real fine, but where they sign
Yeah,
at. But I
yeah.
didn't look on the
That's how I
painting.
sign everything. Yeah.
Ah,
It's not as mysterious as Banksy,
yes. Yes.
but
The
it's
famous Banksy.
but but I'm okay, Mark, I'm Kervin Mark. Yeah,
I
so it's
remember
like
that.
my name is Marc.
Mm.
So I like to put a little tick at the end of the just in front of the C at the
Yeah.
end to make it look like a K.
Oh, okay. I get it.
I've never
Wow.
explained that to anybody. So Tanya, you've got an exclusive there.
It's exclusive. Huh? You heard it here. So when you actually sit down and you design a piece, where does that start for you? Like, is it the fabric, the shape, or a feeling that you get?
Yeah, I don't think I've got like a set process because I let these things happen.
Right.
It could start with the fabric, it could start with designing it, it could start by accident. Yeah,
Mhm.
not ashamed to say that. Yeah, but happy accidents sometimes. By placing things together and just seeing what happens. Yeah. So I suppose that is my process. But initially, then I've got to make sure it works in the body. So then I'll probably do a few samples initially,
Mhm.
and yeah, and then work it out and tweak it out. Maybe do a calico. So yeah, I suppose now I'm working in a much more traditional way
Mhm.
of draping. Um,
Okay.
working a bit on the pattern. All these things are not things that I initially trained in, but I've learned along the way, and I constantly get better at. Yeah, so I see it as like one big university of life, creating,
Mhm.
and I'm always finding new ways of doing things, you know. So
What
yeah.
what makes you pick up your brush instead of to work with fabric and design something?
So to be honest with you, my first year of art college, right, was foundation year, and that foundation year is like based on the German Bauhaus. Yeah, I'm probably saying it wrong because I don't have a German accent. Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah, and where it's multidisciplinary. Okay, so now my life, yeah, with my space in 189 Westbourne Grove, in Notting Hill, is just about, okay, you fancy getting, I've got my sewing machine there. Do you feel like getting on the sewing machine? Okay, I'll get on it. Do you feel like painting now? Well, the canvases are there. I'll get on it. My paints are there. Okay, do you want to talk out some ideas and stuff? I mean, if anybody's around, sometimes even the customer who comes in, I'll have a chat with them, and that might inform me because I'm always meeting people,
Mhm.
so um, and yeah, so it can come at any moment. The painting, I mean, sometimes not so practical as I've got like things which are finished there, and I'm really disciplined in how I don't let paint spread around. Yeah,
Right.
one of my very good customers, and who's become a very good friend on Instagram, just said to me 2 days ago, if that was me, because I was talking whilst painting
Mhm.
outside my shop, actually, a tiny little painting, like,
Mhm.
and she was like, if that was me, I'd have paint everywhere. And I'm thinking, well, I'm quite disciplined actually, but on my person, there'll be bits of paint here and there,
Mhm.
but I don't like it spreading accidentally onto other things. It's very rare that happens. So yes, so this is a very long answer, but uh, the brush, it just comes when it comes,
Yeah.
and sometimes it will be like right now it's coming a lot.
Mhm.
But it could sometimes take months, weeks, years.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is. But right now there's a full flow.
Yes, I see you painting a lot when I walk by when I
Yeah,
visit.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, when you paint, is it inspired by like you said, when someone could be sitting down, real things happening in your life, or more by what's going on in the world around you?
Yeah, so things happening in my life, it's all of the above, you know, I don't know what the right answer is. The only
Just
right answer I can tell you is that sometimes it's an emotional thing where I'm going through things and I'm trying to work it out on canvas.
mm,
Sometimes it's visions from the past, and sometimes it's visions from the future.
mm, mm,
And I'm just placing it on canvas and having like conversations with myself or with the viewer. And sometimes the paintings paint themselves. It sounds a bit strange, but when you get into that almost like pre-art stage, or some sort of voice and energy within you, which is almost beyond you, and you're like a vessel. Sometimes they paint yourself because you almost wake up out of it and think, "Oh wow, okay, yeah." So this is So that was the voices I could feel and hear. So. Um,
mm,
it's not in a mental health way. I mean, but anyway, who knows? It might. It is like therapy in some way.
mm,
Um, but one of the things I remember being a professional sportsman was that it's a professional practice. Yeah,
mm,
it's a professional thing that I do. My process is my process, and it's about getting the work out. So that process might vary. So, um, but it's a professional thing. I live by it. So and it's my profession. I remember playing cricket, and there'd
mm.
be days where physically my body just didn't want to do it because it's hurting,
Right.
But I'd have to find a way. So that's what for me, the professional practice is like. It's not. People like to look at artists like, well, maybe me, and it's like, oh, it's a jolly, yeah. No, it's also my process and my practice,
Mm,
um,
mm.
and my job. But it just happens to be, to me, the best job in the world.
Yeah, yeah, because you're doing what you love. That's why.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But it's not an easy ride. It's not
Never
a
an easy ride, ever.
it's not an easy ride. But
It's only easy if you clone yourself and just do as
yeah,
told.
yeah. But I love it. I love it. I love it. And
Yeah,
after
yeah,
a while, things are really, really easy. You just get bored, don't you? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, so you've talked about how your work and your presence um, pull some people in and push some other people away. How do you make peace with the idea that art is not for everybody?
Um, just like our own selves, our own individuals, does everybody like you? I mean, when I was younger, I suppose I was a bit more concerned about like people liking me and so forth. But it's like, I'm 6'5", black guy. And it's like, and I smile a bit, I probably smile a bit in this interview and so on and so forth. And it's not fake. I mean, yeah, I don't mean anybody any harm, but people will just instantly not. Some people will just not like you. So as you get older, you realize that that's just going to be the way it is. And then when you make artwork, then you realize that what, it's not going to be to everybody's taste. And also, you're not doing the things that the pretty faces, the nice flowers and the nice realistic, super realistic stuff, which everybody can identify with. And yeah, so you're definitely going into a niche area by doing a
Mhm.
bit of abstract,
Mm,
sort of figurative work in a way.
mm,
So and you just face it that people are not necessarily going to like it. The most important thing for me is, do I like it? And is it, did I get a clear connection with what I'm trying to say? So I mirror that, through my life. It's just people. Not everybody's going to like you. Yeah.
Yes.
Not even some members of your own, like your own, say, extended family. I mean, I think
Yes.
my immediate family like me, but and yeah, I've never had somebody tell me that they didn't like me from my family, but who knows? But you know how it is. We've all got. So if people from some people's own immediate family don't like them, then how's complete strangers gonna just love you and love your work and love your style? So, so it's just being brave enough to be like, okay, I do what I do, and it's not going to be for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the approach for anything. So our time is coming up, but if someone's never seen your work before and they walked into your boutique for the first time, what do you want them to feel?
I think with the artwork, I want them to feel something, some type of power, greater than me or them, with the artwork, with the clothing, I want them to be intrigued by the functionality and the individuality in the clothing, and also the luxury materials and the mix of materials. So it's like I want them to constantly be asking questions and not always be like, "Oh, I know what that is," and just dismiss it and be like, "Oh yeah." I want people to, and I think that's what I generally achieve, because I'm always asking myself questions about clothing and so forth. And what can it do and what does it mean? So it's an art practice for me, the clothing. So having the two things together, this sort of experiment, then it creates I think an interesting voice, and an interesting feeling. It might not please everybody,
Right.
but I think it does definitely conjure. I mean, today a woman said to me that, I felt quite intimidated coming into the space, because there's so much art, and the art's so powerful, and the clothing is, what she say, like very individual. She didn't realize that she was complimenting me. The intimidating part is, I think it's just different to what's out there. So,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So
Well,
I'm just trying to add to people's lives, just in some type of positive way.
Absolutely. I know your shop certainly adds to Westbourne Grove. So I appreciate you so much for being my guest today. It's if you're in London ever, you must stop at 189 Westbourne Grove. Yes, must stop there, because I guarantee you will have an experience. Trust me, in art and in fashion. So. And in your ownership, you have an atmosphere that you bring to the place as well. So, I mean, there's lots of people that own stores, but you don't get the same vibe. There's a whole vibe over there. So if you get to Westbourne Grove, please stop in and say hi, and you'll want to buy something. Trust me. So thank you so much, Kevin, for being our guest. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Tanya.
Okay. Thank you guys out here. I'm trying to see who's out here so I can say. Did anybody say anything? Thank you. Thank you, guys. Oh, thank you, Grandma Norma. Appreciate you. And Joe and Tony. I can't see the people on YouTube. Sorry, guys. I'll have to get to you later. But thank you all for watching. And you're hearing Kervin talk. You can feel why people call this boutique a secret worth finding. They're right. So here's a gentleman from Cricket to Central St. Martin's, from the stall at Spitalfields to his own studio at Westbourne Grove. He's a man who's built a whole world of thread, paint, and divine purpose. If you're ever in London, do yourself a favor and go and find Kervin Marc's boutique at 189 Westbourne Grove. Step into that studio and see the art and the fashion for yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. And make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Yeah? All right. So thank you guys. And we'll see you soon. I will talk to you soon. Thank you for being my guest. I appreciate you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye, guys. Ready? There we go.